Tonight on 7 News, the Middle East explodes. America's deadly strikes on Iran, the mission to annihilate its terrorist leaders.
No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight.
The Ayatollah is dead, but Tehran is fighting back.
It's targeting civilians in neighbouring countries, hitting airports and hotels. And Australians are in the firing line.
Happening now, Iranians rejoicing. First protests, then celebrations on the streets of Melbourne.
Global travel in meltdown, planes grounded and passengers stranded across the world. What the conflict means for petrol prices.
The Grand Prix promising no disruptions in a mega march of events.
And Ross the Boss keeping a close eye on the Pies in the countdown to their season opener.
This is 7 News with Karina Carvalho and Mike Amor.
Good evening. The mission is clear. The US-led annihilation of Iran's terrorist regime, which has spilled blood across the world for almost half a century.
And already the nation's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, is dead, killed in his fortress by American and Israeli airstrikes. Operation Epic Fury. Iran is retaliating, unleashing attacks across the Middle East. Israel, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar and Kuwait among those bombed.
It immediately shut down the region's airspace, sending global airline travel into chaos. Right now, the Middle East is burning. Our chief reporter Chris Reason is in Tel Aviv, Israel, and leads our coverage.
America had promised the Iranians help. Overnight, it arrived. The US and Israel in a joint operation against a 50-year foe. The Pentagon calling it Operation Epic Fury. The Israelis chose Roaring Lion. Two names, one plan to take down their long-term enemy, Iran. From out at sea, a barrage of cruise missiles and squadrons of stealth fighters. A rare daylight mission, over 900 sorties, flattening targets across the country. Military bases, the parliament, an atomic agency, even the home and compound of Iran's supreme leader himself, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, levelled. Iranians watched it all in disbelief. Explosions too of celebration. 47 years of tyrannical rule and repression under threat. From Donald Trump watching from Mar-a-Lago.
It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer.
An 8-minute justification for this unparalleled operation.
We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground.
And by the end of the day, news few thought possible. The supreme leader was dead, confirmed on state television through tears. 86-year-old Ali Khamenei, tyrant and despot, killed via an aerial assassination. President Trump saying online, Khamenei, one of the most evil people in history, is dead, revealing that highly sophisticated tracking technology had found him. The decapitation strike bringing to an end a brutal 36-year reign. Mr. Trump now calling on the Iranian people to rise up.
When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. Seize control of your destiny.
Millions of Iranians overjoyed. There were celebrations on the streets of Tehran. His statue torn down, so was much of his regime. A string of surgical strikes, the Defence Minister, Revolutionary Guard Commander and Ali Khamenei's chief advisor, 40 leaders gone. No tears for them, no words for this. A targeting tragedy with a primary school hit. Over 100 children believed dead. But the Islamic regime had long promised a crushing response, and it came within hours. That was the US 5th Fleet base in Bahrain. Witnesses watching as it came under attack from a drone. Iran unleashed a barrage of ballistic missiles and rockets. This one in Doha, shot down but still deadly. Tourism hotspots visited by drones and deadly missiles. Dubai's glitzy Palm Jumeirah damaged. The iconic Burj Al Arab hit. At one stage, even the world's tallest building, the Burj Khalifa, came close to attack. The drone instead hitting a high-rise packed with tourists. Iran appeared to be throwing everything it had and in every direction. Strikes across 6 countries: Jordan, Qatar, the UAE, Kuwait, Bahrain and Israel. Over 200 ballistic missiles were launched. Most were shot down. This one got through. It was the capital, Tel Aviv. One woman killed, didn't get out of her apartment in time. The conflict has engulfed the Middle East and brought instant chaos to international aviation. Here, Dubai Airport, the biggest in the world, coming under attack, evacuated, closed down. A gateway for thousands of Australians each week, many here trapped in transit. So too at Doha Airport. The region's airspace shut down. The only planes flying here were military. As civilians on both sides of this war spent the day praying to God, but afraid of the heavens.
Now, the Israelis are used to these kind of alarms, of course. They come with frequency thanks to the crude, hand-built missiles that are fired from down there in Gaza by Hamas. But this is different. This is Iran, and we're talking about missiles with next-level devastation. Ballistic missiles, hypersonic missiles, ones that travel at 5 times the speed of sound. Now, Iran is some 1,500 kilometres over that way. Those missiles will be here within 12 minutes. And right across this country right now, Israelis are doing this, making their way to bomb shelters for safety.
Millions of citizens in homes and hotels will be back and forth to shelters like this over a dozen times today. Here, 2 floors below ground, the converted car park turned concrete community centre. Pets, kids and cots.
We're used to that. We're really familiar with that.
I feel safe because I know that we have a good army, a good soldiers.
It's scary, but, Israel has us protected.
But for some, this was a day of excitement.
We are bombing spiritually Iran and Hezbollah.
You happy about that?
Yeah, sure.
Why is it
we have to.
News? Tell me.
Israel needs to be secured.
We spoke to one Iranian woman.
This is so scary. I try to put myself together.
Torn between disbelief and delight that Iran's regime could fall. In Tel Aviv, Australian mother Emily Gian sheltered in their own bunker.
Every time it goes off, you still get a bit of a fright. And you jump out of your skin.
One of around 12,000 Australians living in Israel.
We've had to run into the safe room all the time. It's been like rocket missiles, alert warnings.
Day 1 down. No one knows how long this will run or where it will end.
To Washington in a moment, but first, Chief Reporter Chris Reason in Israel. Chris, Iran is warning its most intense wave of strikes is coming. Has that begun?
Good evening, Mike. Yeah, we're getting reports out of Qatar that the air defence systems in Doha have been engaged this morning, hitting back at Iranian missile strikes there. We're hearing the alarms are going off in Kuwait as well, and also fresh interceptions overnight in Dubai, and a hotel, a Crown Plaza hotel, has apparently just been struck by another missile in the last couple of hours in Bahrain. It appears that the Iranians have thrown away all of their alliances and allegiances and agreements with regional partners, and they are hitting whatever they can with whatever they have left, as the alarms are starting to go off again here now, Mike. One other chilling point too, one of the last remaining Iranian leaders, Ali Larijani, warning today that America would be stabbed in the heart. A clear reference there potentially to a fresh round of terrorism assaults.
Chris Reason in Israel. Chris, please stay safe. US correspondent Rob Scott is in Washington, D.C. Rob, why now? What has President Trump said about the timing of this attack?
Well, Mike, the president insists that Tehran posed an imminent threat, and senior officials here were arguing that the best way to limit American casualties was this preemptive strike. But Democrats say the decision to attack was made without congressional approval, and they will force a vote next week to try to limit Donald Trump's war powers. But with Republicans in lockstep with Donald Trump, that is likely to do very little to impact his plans. The president waging this conflict from his private Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida, and it is being felt right around the world. Unbridled joy outside the Iranian embassy in London. Exiles celebrate the missile strikes on Tehran. In Berlin, thousands gather, hoping this is the beginning of the end of a brutal regime. Donald Trump kept the world guessing until the final moment, mingling with guests at his Florida home.
We gotta go work. I gotta go to work.
Pulling the trigger without the approval of Congress.
This war was started illegally under international law and under domestic law.
But Republicans say diplomacy had run its course.
They've rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions, and we can't take it anymore.
The White House says Iran's efforts to rebuild its nuclear program constituted an intolerable risk to the US. The UK, France and Germany now calling on Iran to allow its people to determine their own future.
The regime in Iran is utterly abhorrent. They have murdered thousands of their own people, brutally crushed dissent, and sought to destabilise the region.
Iranians in the UK sharing their excitement with Seven's Europe correspondent Jacqueline Robson.
Well, it's well into the night here in London and people are still gathered outside the Iranian embassy. They say they just cannot sleep. They're so excited. And there is still support from passers-by.
I've been waiting for this night for my life, basically. So I couldn't stay home.
We're very, very happy and hopeful, for sure.
At the United Nations, calls for an immediate end to all military action.
The alternative is a potential wider conflict with grave consequences for civilians and regional stability.
Protesters out in force in the United States. As with so many of Donald Trump's decisions, this has divided America. There are those who believe that what he is doing is right, that the US is the only country who can overthrow the Iranian regime. But there are many others, like these protesters, who believe that this is not America's war.
Most of us do not want this war.
It's not what USA is about.
In Washington, D.C., Rob Scott, 7 News.
America's surprise attack caught the world off guard, especially the airlines, with flights from Australia to the Middle East turned back in the middle of the night.
Right now, tens of thousands of passengers, including plane loads of Australians, are stranded all over the globe, with the world's busiest aviation corridor empty of aircraft.
One by one, flights to the Middle East return to Australia. Their destination's airspace suddenly off limits, leaving thousands stranded across the world.
Our visas run out in Australia today, and we're now basically illegal immigrants.
Flights turned around mid-air, like this one from Brazil to Dubai. Cabin crew as much in the dark as passengers. At Sydney Airport, a makeshift hostel.
We have no communications from the airline, so we don't know what's happening. So I don't know how long we're going to sleep here.
Transit passengers given emergency Australian visas to clear customs.
There's no accommodation in Sydney anyway because there's a Mardi Gras on.
In Adelaide, passengers arrived for a 2 a.m. Emirates flight, greeted instead by departure board red. 29 aircraft from Middle East carriers now stuck at airports across Australia.
Only seat I could get was going out Tuesday evening to Singapore. Everything else has been grabbed.
This is probably the longest ever Sydney to Melbourne flight, 10 hours. VA1 to Doha made it across Australia before being turned back. But Sydney's overnight curfew meant the plane diverted to Melbourne, landing around 2 a.m, where passengers struggled to find hotels with vacancy. A flight from Perth to Doha also turned back.
Had a sudden tragedy in the family, so we had to reschedule our flight for tonight to try and get home in time.
The airspace above Iran empty. Flights, including Qantas services to London and Paris, are diverting north, adding about 30 minutes. If we zoom into Dubai and Qatar, the airspace is also very quiet, as one of the world's major hubs, with 90,000 transit passengers a day, is almost out of action. Tonight, listed as do not fly by the Australian government's Smart Traveller website.
We have always worked to do what we can to support Australians. We will always do that. At this situation, the airspace is closed.
There are still options to travel to Europe.
So we've got Qantas, they're still flying from Perth and Singapore to London without any issues. All the Asian hub carriers are fine at the moment. So that's Singapore Airlines through Singapore, Cathay Pacific through Hong Kong.
And Blake Johnson, you have developing news on the airspace over the Middle East.
Karina, Qatar has just extended the closure of its airspace until at least 5 a.m. tomorrow. See, it's 3 flights out of here tonight, definitely not going ahead. A couple of their stranded jets sitting behind us. Dubai, the home of Emirates, will make a call at 11 o'clock tonight. I can tell you the race is on to find seats on other airlines. Qantas services to Paris and London are now sold out. Karina, 0 seats available for the next couple of days.
Yeah, it's going to last for a little while yet. Blake Johnson, thank you.
Protests have turned to celebrations here in Melbourne over the death of Iran's supreme leader. Let's go live to Rochelle Brown on the steps of Parliament. Rochelle, they long hoped for the end of the regime.
Well, Mike, it's hard to fathom, but the crowd behind me has been waiting more than 4 decades for this very moment. The overwhelming feeling in this crowd is relief. They've spent the past 4 hours cheering, dancing, clapping and playing music. They are celebrating attacks on their home soil because to them it's the devastating price of liberation.
Majority of the people have been living under oppression, under cruelty, force, ruled by force and by sword. And now it's freedom.
I personally have 90 million people in that country, and I don't know them, but my heart just beats for them.
Just hours earlier, the Free Palestine movement ran an anti-war protest through the streets of the city. Hundreds waved Iranian flags as they marched, taking a stand against foreign military interference. As you can see, Mike, the Iranians here are planning to continue their celebrations long into the evening.
Rochelle, thank you.
Australians in the Middle East have been told those who can leave should, with uncertain and difficult days ahead. Anthony Albanese has backed the attack on Iran, saying the country must be stopped from obtaining nuclear weapons.
The death of the tyrant of Tehran is cause for celebration in Canberra's diplomatic district. Outside the now deserted Iranian embassy, ecstatic community members dancing in the streets. Overjoyed that Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's reign of terror is over. And so is the Prime Minister.
He is responsible for orchestrating attacks on Australian soil. His passing will not be mourned.
Giving Australia's backing to Donald Trump's devastating aerial bombardment.
We support the United States acting to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon.
Calling an emergency session of his Cabinet's National Security Committee this morning, revealing his government was given no prior warning by either the US or Israel, but has now been briefed.
We stand with the Iranian people in standing up for their human rights. They have suffered brutal repression.
Our military were not involved, nor has Australia been asked to contribute to the campaign. Foreign Minister Penny Wong hoping conflict soon gives way to diplomacy and deal-making.
We do not want to see this escalate into a wider regional conflict.
And neither do the Iranian people. For the members of the Iranian community here today, a rare sense of joy, but underpinned by a deep sadness for the hundreds and thousands of friends and relatives who've been slaughtered by the regime. The pain etched in their faces, remembering those who've been killed and those still risking their lives to stand up to the regime.
These people are brutal, they have one agenda, and it is to kill innocent people, people who don't align with their beliefs.
The Iranian ambassador expelled from this building last year after ASIO blamed Tehran's Revolutionary Guard for anti-Semitic attacks on a kosher deli in Sydney and a Melbourne synagogue. The government says Australians in the Middle East now who can leave should.
The days ahead are going to be difficult. They are uncertain.
While Anthony Albanese supported the destruction of Iran's nuclear capabilities and ending its bloody repression of its own people, he avoided any comment today on whether Donald Trump's bombing campaign was justified under international law, saying that was a question for the United States. But he also dodged an important question for him. whether Australia supports President Trump's stated objective of forcing regime change in Tehran, something that is a direct breach of Article 2 of the UN Charter against international law, an organisation President Trump has very little respect for, but for which Australia has been a long and passionate supporter. Important questions of international diplomacy lost in the fog of deadly missiles. Karina.
Mark Riley in Canberra, thank you.
Donald Trump called him one of the most evil people in history, and tonight Iran's supreme leader for the past 4 decades is dead. So who was he and who will now fill the void? Foreign editor Hugh Whitfeld explains.
In the 1979 Iranian Revolution, the clerics, the hardline Islamists, took control, and Ali Khamenei was right there, seizing power a decade later when the first Ayatollah, Ruhollah Khomeini, died. As the new supreme leader, Khamenei ruled with a bloodthirsty iron fist, arming the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps to become dreaded domestically, suppressing dissent inside Iran through fear and murder. Across the region, Iran held huge power via proxies, funding and directing Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen, and armed militias in Iraq and Syria too, sowing chaos and leading to years of bloodshed, including the fallout from the October 7 attacks on Israel. At the same time, Iran has developed a nuclear program. The thought of an Iran with nuclear weapons terrifying Western leaders. The Ayatollah's grip on power began to unravel when protesters managed to take to the streets in recent months. The regime's crackdown, though, brutal. At least 7,000 people have been killed. Khamenei kept succession plans secret, but they did exist. What's unclear is how many of the contenders to take control are still alive, or whether the regime itself can even survive.
Hugh, thank you. We'll bring you the latest developments from the Middle East throughout the bulletin. And tonight at 8:20, join Michael Usher for a 7 News special inside Operation Epic Fury.
The rest of the day's news is coming up after the break. One Nation is facing its first major test in Victoria. Still to come on 7 News, how a businessman inspired by Pauline Hanson's controversial movie could create political history.
Also, hoons dicing with death on one of the city's busiest roads, a dangerous trend across the country.
A triple treat of major events, Melbourne gearing up for a mega march.
Later, the hidden danger inside suburban homes, putting Melburnians' health at risk.
Plus, Victoria's severe weather warning, intense rain of up to 100 millimetres forecast over the next 24 hours. I'll have those details for you shortly.
One Nation has unveiled its candidate for the Nepean by-election, a contest that could create history in Victorian politics. The former Liberal voter's political move was inspired by Pauline Hanson's controversial movie.
A sea of orange in the seaside seat of Nepean. Small business owner Darren Hercus hoping to create history as the first One Nation politician in Victoria's lower house.
I just thought I can't vote Liberal anymore, and I decided to flip the menu from blue to orange.
The political hopeful won over by Pauline Hanson at the premiere of her controversial A Super Progressive movie in Melbourne.
She said, all I want is a fair go for all Australians and everyone to be treated as equals. And I thought, wow, what a simple message.
This is what people want. They've had enough. And that's why they're turning to One Nation.
The Labor Party is standing by its decision not to run a candidate in the historically blue ribbon seat.
This is a by-election that has been caused by Liberal Party disunity, distrust and chaos.
The by-election triggered by Sam Groth's sudden departure, now swapping Parliament for a poolside Bali holiday. With the state elections still 8 months away, political analysts say One Nation will need to keep up the momentum if it wants to win over Victorians in November.
If it can't win a seat in these circumstances, it will find it very difficult to win seats at the general election.
Ainsley Kosh, 7 News.
Motorbike riders are dicing with death on some of Melbourne's busiest roads. This group was filmed performing stunts on the Ring Road last night. And there were similar scenes on Sydney Harbour Bridge, with one rider almost falling off. during a reckless move.
Melbourne's Formula One bosses are keeping a close eye on the Middle East conflict, but insist it's full speed ahead for the Grand Prix this week. The F1 season launches part of a blockbuster mad march of events as Melbourne roars to life.
With just 5 days to go, F1 bosses insist the Grand Prix season opener is on track. Despite the Middle East conflict threatening to put the brakes on travel plans, team and staff arrangements are being worked through and there are no expected impacts. It's been a delicate operation transporting precious cargo from a pre-season in Bahrain to Albert Park. But for the sport's big stars, it's business as usual.
When we look at the Grand Prix specifically, 40% of that market comes from interstate and probably about 7% comes from an international base in the UK, the US and broader Europe.
The Grand Prix is part of Mad March, Melbourne's most action-packed month of the year.
Event City, tennis, Grand Prix, racing, got all the things going on.
Collingwood will host St Kilda at the G on Sunday, the only Melbourne match in the opening round. There's also the Food and Wine Festival, plus the Comedy Festival and the Flower and Garden Show.
It's the first time Melbourne will host the triple threat of Moomba, the Grand Prix and the AFL, all on the Labor Day long weekend. And it's set to pay off, attracting a record-breaking 1.5 million people to the city.
Comparing last year to this year, it's up 14% for Saturday and up 30% on Sunday.
Phoebe Worthley, 7 News.
A severe weather warning has been issued for most of the state as authorities warn intense rainfall may lead to life-threatening flash flooding. More than a month's worth of rain could fall within a few hours.
Tyra Stowers is tracking the system. Tyra, it's about to hit Victoria.
That's right, Karina. The first of the rain is set to kick off this evening, and this has authorities bracing for similar conditions to what we saw during last week's wild weather. Now, we're looking at falls between 40 to 60 millimetres around central parts of the state over a 6-hourly period, bringing the risk of flash flooding. Now, the unstable weather system is moving in from South Australia. It's set to push into the west of the state over the next few hours, increasing rain and thunderstorm activity, bringing the risk of heavy to locally intense falls. It'll commence in Melbourne overnight with the heaviest falls in the morning. I'll have more on this and when it is set to clear up a little later in your full forecast. Mike and Karina.
Okay, looking forward to that. Thank you so much, Tyra. Israel is preparing for more attacks and the US is promising days of fury. Our special coverage of the Middle East conflict continues next. We're live to Tel Aviv.
Plus, what it means for Victorian drivers. Will petrol prices surge?
A hidden danger in Melbourne homes leaves a brave cancer patient facing a new battle.
And brimming with pride as Mardi Gras makes its colourful return.
Returning now to the unfolding emergency in the Middle East, Chief Reporter Chris Reason is live in Tel Aviv. Chris, Iran is now waking up without a leader. What can we expect in the coming hours?
Yeah, good evening again, Karina. Well, we're learning that the Iranian leadership, what's left of it in Tehran, is moving as quickly as it can to try and fill that power vacuum left by the assassination of Ayatollah Khamenei. We know that the National Security Advisor, Ali Larijani, has called a meeting of the Interim Leadership Council to get that process going. The last time this happened, when Khamenei was chosen 36 years ago, it happened in a day, so it will move very quickly. In the running for that position is Khamenei's son. We've learned that he did survive the bombings from the US. Unfortunately for the Ayatollah, his daughter, though, was killed and so was her child, his son-in-law and his daughter-in-law, all killed in that operation. As to who's going to lead this country, Iran, and what is left of it to lead, well, that is very much up in the air.
Chris Reason in Tel Aviv, thanks for keeping us across developments.
Now to Tim Lester in Canberra. Tim, will we be paying for this Middle East conflict at the Bowser?
Well, it's already applying upward pressure on prices, Mike, and all eyes are now on the world's most famous choke point for oil and gas exports. 20% of world supplies flow daily through the Strait of Hormuz off the south coast of Iran. Shipping now has largely paused there, with reports Iran's Revolutionary Guard has warned vessels not to transit.
But to the extent that Iran even has only partial success in disrupting passage through this very critical but narrow strait for seaborne trade, the impact on markets will be immediate and very dramatic.
Saul Kavanagh now warns that there is at least potential for 20 to 40% price rises in petrol over coming weeks. And he says if things go badly in the Middle East, then we could see our worst oil shocks since the 1970s.
Tim Lester live in Canberra. Tim, thank you.
A Melbourne girl battling cancer has been dealt another devastating blow, with her mouldy house making her condition worse. Now her family is desperately trying to find a safer place to live, as doctors warn of the hidden dangers in the home.
The Tunks family is already living every parent's nightmare. 23-month-old Audrey is battling a highly aggressive cancer that's spread throughout her brain and spine. Her little body already going through 14 surgeries and 6 rounds of chemotherapy. But the family's facing another setback. After spending so much time in hospital, they were excited to come home, only to find it was toxic. Mould spores entered Audrey's compromised body and made her sicker.
We still did air testing, readings that were almost double what would be allowed for Audrey within the house.
All their belongings, contaminated, had to be thrown out. The parents who had to give up work are now desperately trying to find a new home.
Finding a rental with no pay slips in today's market has been incredibly difficult.
This week, a stranger reached out offering his property.
We can fix for you on the spot.
An inspector tested every corner, the roof, the aircon, anywhere moisture can get in.
You're surprised at how much water actually comes out of these.
Mould in homes can trigger health issues like allergic reactions, sneezing, runny nose, and for those with asthma or weakened immunity, serious complications.
There are several things you can do at home to help stop mould growth. Open windows and doors to let fresh air in. Use the exhaust fan in the kitchen and bathroom. Wipe away any moisture and use a dehumidifier if needed.
The family is waiting the results of the air quality test. There are details on how you can help on our website. Jennifer Beshwati, 7 News.
250,000 people have celebrated Mardi Gras in Sydney. A sea of colour sweeping through the city as more than 160 floats made their way down the now heritage-listed parade route. Police were largely happy with the crowd's behaviour, though there were 4 arrests. A narcissistic killer thought he'd fooled the world after murdering his wife. Next, the crucial clues that help one police officer expose the truth.
Also, an urgent search for a little girl missing north of Melbourne.
The new plan for more cops to tackle crime at suburban shopping centres.
And recreating part of the human body in the fight against MND.
Inside Operation Epic Fury.
The hour of your freedom is at hand.
Chief reporter Chris Reason live from the Middle East.
Missiles with next-level devastation.
And the most experienced team breaking down every detail. Special coverage from Sunrise, then 7 News, every night at 6.
An urgent search is underway tonight for a baby missing from Shepparton. 7-month-old Nirvana was last seen on Carvalho Street on February 18. Police believe she may be with her parents, Sonny and Joel. Anyone with information is urged to contact local police.
A persistent police officer has retraced the steps he took to bring down a killer. For 6 years, Louis Marnie thought he'd fooled the world after staging his wife's murder. Now, in our Kiss and Kill investigation, we examine the clues that expose the truth.
Returning to a quiet country street.
Lovely to meet you.
Where in the front yard, a killer narcissist nearly got away with murder.
Laney was lying with her head on the rocks.
Cocky, smug, a renowned womaniser, Louis Marnie had been a Northern Territory constable, but by 2009 was living in Charleville with his de facto wife, Laney Caldwell.
Very personable, very smooth, and convincing. I've no doubt he was a narcissist.
Marnie told police he found 36-year-old Lainey at the base of a gum tree where she'd been taking down Christmas lights. Local police believed him, but Jerry Thornton, working in a nearby town, didn't.
It looked staged to me.
He was told to drop it, but his instinct told him not to, discovering Marnie had taken out life insurance policies worth millions.
When the paramedics were here, he continually said, "Is she dead?" Which most people would say, "Is she going to live?"
Jerry's persistence saw the case reopened. In 2017, Marnie was convicted of murder and jailed for life.
Louis' philandry, pathological lies and narcissistic nature led him to inflict a brutal injury on Lainey, causing her death.
The most likely scenario is that Lainey was overpowered inside the house. It's then thought she may have been attacked here, where the old shed used to be. Louis then moved the ute to block the view from the street and moved Lainey to the base of the tree, where he made it look like an accident.
Marnie will be eligible for parole in 2030.
He overestimated his ability. I think he kept tripping up because he thought he was invincible.
To listen, visit 7news.com.au/kiss and kill, download on the Listener app or wherever you get your podcasts. Katrina Blowers, 7 News.
PSOs will remain at Melbourne shopping centres until the end of the year as a trial tackling retail crime is extended. New data shows a 73% drop in theft and a 50% drop in violent attacks, where the officers have been patrolling.
We've also seized 101 weapons, detected 95 or had 95 drug seizures, and we've checked over 3,800 cars.
The government will spend $6.5 million on the operation. A team of scientists is preparing an Australian-first research project in the fight against motor neurone disease.
They're setting out to reproduce human spinal cords to find new targeted drugs and therapies.
Once a surfer, when Michael O'Hare felt twitching in his arm and weakness at the gym, he and his doctor assumed it could have been a lingering injury from a wipeout years earlier.
He said, look, if it gets any worse, come back. Well, it did, pretty quickly.
Ultimately diagnosed with motor neurone disease and told he only had a few years.
Within 3 months, I was put on a new drug trial. I've been on that drug trial ever since, for 6 years. And my progression has slowed significantly.
A new study led by the University of Wollongong is hoping to have similar success. It's an Australian first, using donated stem cells to grow mini spinal cords in the lab.
The thing with MND is that the disease progresses or starts in different places with different people.
For the first time, reproducing the human neck, the mid and lower back to help researchers understand how the disease spreads and find treatments to stop it in its tracks.
Current models don't give us that tool, and we will hopefully be able to look at the impact of drugs on that.
Research made possible by MND Australia. Amber Laidler, 7 News.
Theo Doropoulos joins us now. Theo, Collingwood is already feeling the heat.
Oh, Karina, they're winless going into the start of the season. Not the ideal position for Craig McRae's Pies ahead of opening round. Coming up next, Undercover Ross, the Saints coach keeping tabs on the Pies in Ballarat. A wait for a star defender as the Blues prepare to unveil Generation Next. Elisa Healy's stunning farewell to one-day cricket, and Australia's sprint stars light up the track in Hobart. Welcome back. Collingwood will enter season 2026 winless after a shock 1-point loss to North Melbourne in Ballarat, but it was an incognito Ross the Boss stealing the show ahead of next Sunday night's opening round blockbuster.
Kicking with a 5-goal win in Ballarat, North Melbourne was out to make amends for its 80-point drubbing at the hands of the D's last week.
Kicks towards the top of the square and taken by Darling.
Lachie Schultz showed why he's been elevated into Collingwood's leadership group as North's new skipper kicked truly at the other end. Jack Buller kicked 2 goals, pushing his case for a debut in black and white under the watchful eye of Collingwood's opening round opponents. Ross Lyon staying an extra night in Ballarat after St Kilda's hit out yesterday. Collingwood kicked 6 goals in a row in the second, the wind getting the better of the Kangas, all except SSP signing Tom Blomyers, who impressed with 24 touches, including this lace-out effort.
Goes low and hard, Curtis this time.
First round pick Lockie Doverston proved crafty, booting 3 goals as a small, penciling in a round 1 debut, while big man Tristan Cherry copped a hit to his ribs, ultimately soldiering on, but not delivering his finest work.
Eddie kicks it out of bounds on the full.
North held off the Pies, regaining the lead late in the final quarter. A frantic finish for Collingwood not getting the job done, who, despite being without Nick Dacos, Pendlebury, Sidebottom, Crisp, DeGoey, Elliott and others, would leave Mars Stadium unimpressed.
I know it's pre-season and people are going to say, oh, it doesn't mean that much, but we were pretty embarrassed after last week, our showing against Melbourne, so to come out and get a win and take some belief going into the season, can't do any harm.
Xander Maguire, 7 News.
Carlton's Jacob Wiedering has taken another step towards facing Sydney in opening round. The star defender trained this morning as he continues to recover from broken ribs, but he's yet to put them to a real physical test ahead of the Blues season opener against Sydney on Thursday night, as Carlton prepares to finally unveil prized recruit Jagger Smith.
It's like he's been in the system for 10 years. He just gets it. It's pretty incredible. He's got attributes that not many have.
Will Haywood and Ollie Florent are both set to face their old side, while Harry Dean could make his AFL debut. In her final one-dayer for Australia, Elisa Healy was on a mission to end her white ball career on a dream high note. In the final ODI against India, the Aussie skipper blasted her 9th international ton, this one in Hobart, before putting her foot down as the Aussies took total control of Game 3.
And there's 150. The acceleration from 100 to 150 was absolutely superb.
The skipper's 158 off 98 balls, the highest women's one-day score for Australia, going with the highest team total, 7 for 409. Pakistan's T20 World Cup is over despite winning its final Super 8 game, posting 8 for 212 against Sri Lanka. Pakistan needed to restrict the co-host to 147 or less, but the Lions made 6 for 207, falling 5 runs short. It means New Zealand joins England and South Africa in the semis. Manchester City is breathing down the neck of Premier League leaders Arsenal. The Sky Blues kept the heat on the Gunners, snatching a 1-0 win over Leeds to stay within 2 points. While it was a goal fest for Liverpool, the Red Devils smashing West Ham 5-2 to draw level on points with 4th placed Manchester United. Australian sprinter Lockie Kennedy made a winning return in his first race back from a career-threatening back injury. The 22-year-old Olympian dominated the 200 metres final at last night's Hobart Track Classic.
It's definitely good to be back. 8 months old I was out for, so it's certainly good to be back out here. 200's a little harder than I remember.
Peterborough breezed to victory in the 800 metres final. 20-year-old Claudia Hollingsworth secured the 3,000 metres crown. Impressive efforts indeed. Now, if you hadn't noticed, footy's back.
Yes, it is.
Thursday night it starts. Cast of characters will be unveiled throughout the week. We'll hear from nearly everyone associated with the footy club, and we are away.
When do you reckon we'll find out if Jacob Wiedering will line up against Charlie
He's
Tannock?
got to train on Tuesday. If he gets through Tuesday, which I don't think Carlton will let us go and film it, but I reckon he's in.
We might try and sneak there, Carlton.
We'll get the chopper.
It's an assignment for you, Theo. Thank you.
Thank you. Tyra Stowers returns now with the forecast. And Tyra, how is it looking for the start of the week?
Well, very wet, Mike. We have a system moving in from South Australia that will bring some large rainfall totals. I have all of those details for you in the forecast next. Welcome back. Well, it's been another humid day and we have seen showers already starting to develop in the state's west this afternoon. This system and the wet weather is set to hit Melbourne over the next few hours. 21.5 was the overnight low in the city and it got to 30.5 and it's dropped quite dramatically since then, sitting in the high 20s. OK, let's take a look at what happened today around your suburb. Well, muggy and cloudy for the most part. And we've had hit and miss showers this afternoon. Further out, rain and embedded thunderstorms in the west today and moderate to heavy falls developed late, remaining mostly dry in the east. Horsham has recorded 10 times their March average so far in around 2 and a bit days, with more on the way. The high pressure has remained over the Tasman, bringing the warm and humid conditions before we have a trough move into the far west later tonight, bringing that wet weather. Around the country tomorrow, Brisbane 29, Sydney 28, Canberra 21, showers in Hobart, Adelaide 25 and Perth 29. Back home now, heavy rainfall is likely in the west and central parts of the state overnight and into tomorrow morning with thunderstorms before the system slowly moves east. There's a severe weather warning in place for flash flooding in areas such as Horsham, Bendigo, Ballarat, Mildura and Swan Hill. There's even the potential for up to 100 millimetres in parts of the northwest. Closer in, the bulk of the wet weather will be overnight and into tomorrow morning, where Melbourne is looking at 20 to 45 millimetres tomorrow, becoming lighter in the afternoon as the system eases throughout the day. Looking ahead now, Tuesday a spot or two, 21 Wednesday, 26 on Thursday, and we start to see some sunshine. Friday 22 mostly cloudy, then a cloudy weekend for the start of the Grand Prix, 23 on Saturday and 26 Sunday. So take care tomorrow as we do have some heavy rainfall on the way. Mike and Karina.
OK, Tyra, thank you. And that's 7 News for this Sunday. Join Michael Usher at 8:20 for a 7 News special bulletin inside Operation Epic Fury.
For now, from the 7 News team, take care and good night.